His old garage was barely holding together, much like his dwindling hopes, and the faint scent of oil and despair clung to every rusted tool. He was a mechanic struggling to keep his dream alive, fixing sputtering engines while his own life stalled. Then, a little girl with a broken scooter and a bright, innocent smile walked into his world, offering something unexpected in return for his kindness. He had no idea this simple, heartwarming exchange would set in motion a chain of events that would transform his fortunes and connect him to a world he never knew existed. He didn't know this moment would save his garage, bridge two very different lives, and prove that the purest form of currency isn't always found in a wallet. But as he held her offering, one question remained: could a single crayon drawing truly mend a broken future? Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. The skeletal fingers of winter had finally receded, but for Elias Vance, the chill of economic stagnation clung stubbornly to every corner of Vance's garage. The spring sun, a pale, indifferent disk in the Oakhaven sky, did little to warm the cold dread that settled in his gut each morning. The air, perpetually thick with the ghosts of forgotten engines and the acrid tang of burnt oil, seemed to press down on him, mirroring the crushing weight of overdue invoices and the menacing glow of his utility bill. His denim overalls, bleached and thinned from countless washes, bore more patches than original fabric, a testament to a life spent wrestling with stubborn machinery and even more stubborn circumstances. At 47, Elias felt the creeping exhaustion of a battle fought too long, against odds that seemed insurmountable. His blue eyes, once sparkling with the fierce concentration of a man wholly absorbed in his craft, now often held a distant, weary gaze, contemplating the inevitable decline. Vance's garage, a weathered brick structure perched precariously on the fringe of Oakhaven's dwindling industrial zone, was more than just a place of business. It was a sanctuary, a living museum of his family's legacy. His grandfather, a gruff but kind man with hands like wrenches, had laid the first bricks, and his father, a stoic pragmatist with an uncanny knack for diagnostics, had expanded its reach. For generations, the Vance men had been the quiet, unassuming saviors of Oakhaven's sputtering vehicles, their reputation built on honest work, fair prices, and an almost intuitive understanding of internal combustion. But the world was changing. The gleaming, impersonal dealerships on the highway offered computer diagnostics and sleek waiting rooms, luring away customers who once valued the personal touch. Young people preferred to lease new cars, rarely understanding the satisfaction of bringing a broken engine back to life. Elias found himself increasingly fixing vintage vehicles, lovingly maintained by a shrinking circle of loyal, elderly patrons who clung to their mechanical past with the same tenacity that Elias clung to his. He was embroiled in a particularly vexing problem, coaxing a spark from the ancient engine of Mrs. Gable's venerable sedan. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died with a disheartening groan, each failed attempt a painful echo of his own failing hopes. The rhythmic clatter of his tools, usually a soothing cadence, today felt like the mocking beat of a funeral drum. He longed for the days when the garage buzzed with activity, when he had apprentices to mentor and a backlog of work that stretched for weeks. Now, the silence was often broken only by the distant roar of highway traffic and the sigh of his own resignation. The bank, a faceless entity, had sent its final, chilling notice. The date for foreclosure was set, a dark mark on his calendar, only 10 days away. He had exhausted every avenue, every desperate measure. The dream, the legacy, was slipping through his grease-stained fingers, dissolving like fine dust. He was just about to admit defeat on Mrs. Gable's engine for the afternoon when the rusty bell above the garage's wide, sliding door gave a hesitant, almost timid jingle. Elias straightened, his back protesting with a familiar ache, turning his head slowly. He expected old Mr. Abernathy, perhaps, with a rattling muffler, or perhaps a salesman he'd have to politely turn away. Instead, framed in the doorway, was a small, almost ethereal figure, bathed in the afternoon light. It was a girl, no older than 6 or 7, her bright yellow rain boots, despite the dry weather, adding a splash of improbable color to the drab surroundings. She clutched the handlebars of a brightly painted, almost neon green scooter, its front wheel askew at an unnatural angle, clearly rendered useless. Her dark hair, tied in 2 buoyant pigtails, framed a small, earnest face, and her wide, curious brown eyes took in the cavernous, oil-stained garage with an almost fearless wonder, not unlike a tiny explorer discovering a hidden cavern. Elias felt an unfamiliar lightness stir within him. It had been years since a child had ventured into his domain. He pushed a stray lock of hair from his eyes, a faint smile touching his lips, the first genuine one in days. "Well now," he rumbled, his voice a low, gravelly sound, rough from years of shouting over engines but softened by the unexpected sight. "Looks like you've got yourself a bit of a predicament there, young lady." The girl nodded, her pigtails bouncing vigorously. She pushed the scooter forward with a determined, almost fierce frown, its broken wheel scraping uselessly on the concrete. "It's broken, mister," she declared, her voice surprisingly clear and confident, devoid of any childish whine. "My wheel got stuck on a tree root. My dad says you're the best at fixing things. He said you can fix anything in the whole world." Elias chuckled, a rare, spontaneous sound that seemed to chase away some of the dust motes in the air. He felt a peculiar warmth spread through his chest. Her unquestioning faith in his abilities was a refreshing tonic to his self-doubt. "Your dad seems to know a thing or two," Elias responded, a playful glint entering his eyes. "Let's see if I can live up to that reputation. Bring it over here, kiddo." He gestured to a cleared spot on his workbench, moving aside a greasy wrench and a pile of spark plugs. The girl, with surprising strength for her size, hoisted the scooter onto the bench. She stood beside it, her small hands resting protectively on its frame, her gaze never leaving Elias's hands as he knelt down to examine the damage. The front axle was bent, the small bearing jammed. A simple enough fix, requiring only a few targeted taps with a hammer and a careful turn of the specialized wrench. It would take him, perhaps, 7 minutes. He could have told her to come back, or to bring it later, but the earnest hope in her eyes was too compelling to deny. He worked meticulously, his large calloused fingers surprisingly delicate as they manipulated the metal. The girl watched him with rapt attention, her brown eyes following every precise movement, every twist of the wrench, every tap of the hammer. She asked questions, sensible ones, imbued with a genuine curiosity. "Why did it break, mister?" she inquired, her small finger tracing the bent metal. "Is it because the root was stronger than the metal?" Elias explained, in simple terms, the principles of force and resistance, of how metal could bend but also be reshaped, of the satisfaction of restoring an object to its purpose. He found himself enjoying the interaction, the unburdened curiosity, a stark contrast to the usual complaints and terse instructions from adult customers. Within what felt like mere moments, the wheel was straight, spinning freely and silently, with a gentle flick of his wrist. He handed the scooter back to her, and she pushed it tentatively, then with growing confidence, a look of pure, unadulterated delight illuminating her entire face as the wheel turned smoothly, without friction. She beamed up at him, her smile radiant. A flash of pure joy that seemed to banish the lingering gloom of the garage. "It's fixed!" she exclaimed, her voice bubbling with a joyous effervescence that resonated through the quiet workshop. "You fixed it! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Mister!" She launched herself forward, her small arms wrapping around his grease-stained leg in a quick, unexpected hug, a gesture so innocent and spontaneous that it momentarily stunned Elias. He wasn't used to such open affection, especially from a stranger, and a child at that. He cleared his throat, a faint blush creeping up his neck. His usual gruff exterior softened. "All right there, Speedy," he murmured, patting her head gently. "Happy to help. Now, your dad. He'll know what this cost, won't he? Or your mom?" He tried to sound professional, but his heart felt surprisingly light, a feeling he hadn't experienced in what felt like years. The girl's bright smile faltered slightly, her brow furrowed in concentration, and she reached into the small, brightly colored backpack slung over her shoulder. Elias braced himself, expecting a crumpled bill Or perhaps a handful of coins, likely not enough to cover even the smallest repair, but he wouldn't press her. Instead, she pulled out a small folded piece of paper, thick with crayon marks, and a single well-worn, almost stubby, purple crayon. I don't have money, mister," she said, her voice softer now, a hint of genuine apology in her tone, as if she truly regretted her financial shortcomings. "But I can pay you this. It's special." She unfolded the paper with meticulous care, revealing a vibrant drawing, and held it out to him with both small hands, her gaze earnest and hopeful, a plea for acceptance. It was a crayon drawing, bursting with vibrant, almost aggressive colors. It depicted a smiling, stick-figure man, unmistakably Elias, with a smudge of grease on his cheek, standing proudly beside a surprisingly accurate stick-figure scooter, its wheel now perfectly round and spinning. Bright red, almost pulsating, hearts floated above their heads, symbols of unburdened happiness, and in bold, childlike letters, scrawled with earnest effort, it proclaimed, "Best mechanic ever. Thank you, Mr. Friend." Elias stared at the drawing, a slow, profound smile spreading across his grease-stained face, tracing the lines of his exhaustion and settling into the crinkles around his eyes. It was the most honest, the most heartfelt, the most genuinely priceless payment he had ever received in his decades of wrenching and fixing. And in that moment, it felt infinitely more valuable than any banknote, more precious than any cold, metallic coin. The simplicity of her gesture, the purity of her gratitude, touched something deep within him, something long dormant beneath layers of cynicism and worry. It was a recognition of his inherent worth, not as a provider of services for profit, but as a restorer, a mender, a source of comfort. "Well now," Elias said, his voice thick with unaccustomed emotion, taking the drawing carefully from her small outstretched hands as if it were a fragile, invaluable treasure. This is quite a payment, isn't it? The best kind, my very best customer indeed." He looked at her, his blue eyes warm, devoid of the weariness that usually shadowed them. "Thank you, kiddo. This is truly perfect. My favorite drawing now." The girl's smile returned, even brighter and more confident than before. She clutched her now-repaired scooter, her small hand resting affectionately on its handlebars. "You're welcome, Mr. Best Mechanic Friend. Goodbye." And with a cheerful, almost musical wave, she pushed off, her small frame propelling the scooter smoothly out of the garage and disappearing down the street, a flash of neon green and yellow, leaving Elias alone once more amidst the familiar scents of his workshop. The sound of her laughter, a light melodic chime, seemed to linger in the air, a fleeting echo of pure, unburdened joy. He walked slowly, almost reverently, over to his grimy workbench, the crayon drawing clutched carefully in his hand. He carefully unfolded the paper, smoothing out the creases, and then, with a small brass tack, he pinned it to the corkboard above his vise, right next to a faded, dog-eared calendar from 3 years ago, a relic of better bay times. The vibrant colors, the childlike innocence, the earnest declaration, stood out starkly, almost defiantly, against the dull, utilitarian backdrop of his tools and schedules. He looked at the crude, yet perfectly expressive, stick figure of himself, the floating hearts, the boldly declared best mechanic ever. "Thank you, Mr. Friend." A profound, unexpected warmth spread through his chest, chasing away the lingering chill of despair and the gnawing anxiety of the looming foreclosure. It was a small, almost insignificant moment in the grand scheme of his struggling life. A mere fleeting interaction, but it felt like a tiny ray of pure, unadulterated sunshine breaking through the dense, oppressive clouds that had shadowed his existence for far too long. He didn't know the girl's name, beyond Lily, or who her father was, or the profound, intricate chain of events that this simple, heartfelt exchange would set into motion. He only knew, in that moment, that the crayon drawing, a child's pure, uncomplicated expression of gratitude, had infused his grimy, struggling workshop with an unexpected, profound sense of joy, a tiny flicker of hope against the encroaching darkness. The memory of her radiant smile, her genuine thanks, lingered, a gentle whisper against the encroaching despair, hinting at possibilities he couldn't yet fathom, a destiny he was utterly unaware of. The crayon drawing, stubbornly cheerful in its bright colors, continued its silent vigil above Elias's workbench. Each morning, as he entered the chilled, dust-laden garage, its unwavering optimism offered a subtle, almost imperceptible counterpoint to the relentless drumbeat of his anxieties. The foreclosure notice, now just 9 days away, felt like a physical weight on his chest, constricting his breath, dulling his senses. He worked through the days in a haze of grim determination, each repair a temporary reprieve, each satisfied customer a fleeting moment of success against the tide of impending ruin. He found himself, in unguarded moments, staring at the drawing, a strange solace in its unburdened joy. He wondered if Lily, the girl with the green scooter, still remembered him, if her small act of kindness had been as memorable for her as it had been for him. He imagined her zooming freely, her pigtails flying, her laughter echoing in the sunshine, a stark contrast to his own grim reality. A week passed in a blur of mundane repairs and gnawing worry. The financial situation remained dire, an unyielding monster slowly consuming his family's legacy. Elias had even considered selling off some of his grandfather's most cherished tools, antique wrenches with stories etched into their worn handles, a thought that felt like a profound betrayal. He knew, deep down, that he was running out of options, that the fight was nearly over. The scent of motor oil and despair seemed more potent than ever. It was a brisk Tuesday morning, just as the first hesitant rays of sunlight were piercing the grimy garage windows, painting streaks of pale gold across the concrete floor, that the sound of a truly distinctive engine reached Elias's ears. It was a low, throaty rumble, powerful yet refined, utterly unlike the usual clunkers and work trucks that frequented his establishment. He paused, his wrench hovering over a sputtering fuel line, a flicker of professional curiosity momentarily eclipsing his personal dread. He walked slowly to the wide, sliding garage door, wiping his hands on a rag, and peered out. A sleek, impeccably maintained vintage car, a deep, polished cherry red, pulled up smoothly to the curb in front of Vance's garage. Its chrome gleamed, reflecting the nascent morning light with an almost audacious brilliance. It was a model Elias vaguely recognized from old magazines, a rare, high-end classic, utterly out of place on his dilapidated, dusty side street. This wasn't a car that needed an oil change. This was a work of art, demanding respect and specialized care. The driver's side door opened with a soft click, and a man emerged. He was tall, with an easy, confident bearing, dressed in smart casual clothes that spoke of understated quality rather than overt flash. His dark hair, lightly streaked with silver at the temples, was a little disheveled, as if he'd just run a hand through it in thought, and a pair of artistic, almost minimalist, wire-rimmed glasses rested on the bridge of his nose. His eyes, a warm, intelligent brown, scanned the garage, taking in the oil stains, the scattered tools, the overall lived-in grunginess. But there was no discernible judgment in his gaze, only a quiet, almost contemplative curiosity, as if he were studying a complex tableau. He carried a slim leather satchel slung over his shoulder. Elias straightened up, instinctively adopting a more formal posture. He felt a flicker of unease, a sense of something important about to happen. This man radiated an aura of purpose and a worldliness that felt alien to Elias's humble existence. He certainly wasn't here for a routine repair. "Can I help you?" Elias asked, his voice a little gruff, wary of strangers who seemed to belong to a different stratosphere. The man smiled, a genuine easy smile that immediately softened his sophisticated appearance. "Good morning," he said, his voice deep and warm, carrying a gentle authority that nonetheless felt kind. "You must be Elias Vance." It wasn't a question, but a statement of recognition, delivered with a certainty that surprised Elias. Elias nodded slowly, his brows furrowed in suspicion. "That's me. And you are?" "Julian Thorne," the man replied, extending a hand. His handshake was firm, confident, yet surprisingly gentle. I believe my daughter visited your establishment last week. Her name is Lily. She had a broken scooter." Elias's eyes widened slightly in recognition. Lily. So that was her name, a simple, sweet name that matched her disposition. A warmth, faint yet distinct, spread through his chest at the mention of the girl. "Ah, Lily. Yes. Bright little thing. Her scooter's all fixed up. Hope she's enjoying it." He found himself smiling, the true, unforced smile, as the memory of her unbridled joy resurfaced. Julian Thorne's smile deepened, a flicker of profound emotion entering his warm brown eyes. "Oh, she is, Mr. Vance. More than you know. She hasn't stopped talking about Mr. Best Mechanic ever and the magic you did. She insisted on telling me every detail, her face absolutely beaming." He paused, his gaze drifting over Elias's shoulder, then landing with uncanny precision on the grimy corkboard above the workbench. His eyes narrowed slightly, then widened in sudden recognition. A slow, profound smile spread across his face, a mixture of amusement, deep pride, and something akin to wonder. A truly captivating expression. "And I see her form of payment received prominent placement. My goodness, Lily will be delighted." Elias felt a faint blush creep up his neck. He'd almost forgotten the drawing was there, so used to its comforting presence. "Oh, that," he mumbled, a little self-consciously, as if caught indulging in a private sentiment. She insisted on paying. It was a fine drawing, very heartfelt." Julian Thorne chuckled, a warm, resonant sound that filled the quiet garage. He took a few steps closer to the workbench, his gaze fixed on Lily's vibrant crayon drawing. He didn't just glance at it, he studied it. His head tilted thoughtfully, a professional, discerning look in his eyes, as if analyzing a complex piece of art. He traced a finger along the crudely drawn scooter wheel, the boldly rendered hearts, the earnest stick figures, his expression one of deep appreciation. "A fine drawing indeed, Mr. Vance. A very fine drawing, and quite evocative. It captures the essence of the moment perfectly, the unburdened joy, the simple kindness." He turned back to Elias, his expression serious now, the previous lightness replaced by an intense, focused gaze that held Elias's attention completely. Julian's demeanor shifted, revealing a man of profound purpose. "Mr. Vance, I'm not just here to thank you for fixing my daughter's scooter, though I am profoundly grateful for your kindness and compassion towards her, and for so graciously accepting her unique payment. Lily is a sensitive child, and her joy, her pure, unadulterated happiness at getting her scooter fixed, and her pride in her payment being accepted, it means more to me than words can possibly convey." He spoke with a conviction that resonated deeply within Elias. Julian took a shaky breath, clearly gathering his thoughts, his gaze unwavering. "You see, Mr. Vance," he continued, his voice dropping slightly, becoming more intimate. "I am an illustrator. My work is primarily in children's books. And not just any children's books, if you'll forgive my immodesty." Elias blinked, a sense of dawning realization, mixed with utter confusion, beginning to unfold within him. An illustrator. That explained the artistic glasses, the discerning eye for Lily's drawing, the contemplative gaze. But what did that, an abstract, creative profession, have to do with him, a man of tangible repairs and worn metal? Julian took another decisive step, closing the small distance between them, his posture confident, his voice gaining momentum, tinged with a quiet yet unmistakable passion. "In fact, Mr. Vance, my work is let's just say it's relatively well known. My books have sold millions of copies worldwide. They've won awards. They've been translated into dozens of languages. I illustrate for children across the globe." Elias felt a sharp jolt, a sudden, electric shock of realization. Millions? He knew nothing about the art world or the publishing industry. But even he understood the staggering implication of that statement. This wasn't just a casual artist. This was someone of significant influence, a true master of his craft. And when Lily came home that day, radiating pure, unblemished joy, clutching her repaired scooter, and showing me her drawing, explaining how you, Mr. Vance, a perfect stranger, so readily accepted her heartfelt payment. A lightning bolt struck me, Julian explained, his voice now imbued with an almost frantic, creative energy, his eyes gleaming with inspiration. The story, Mr. Vance. The story of Mr. Best Mechanic Ever, and the little girl who paid him with a drawing. It's perfect. It's authentic. It's heartwarming. It's universal. It's exactly the kind of story the world, and especially children, need to hear right now. A tale of simple decency, of unexpected connections, of value found in the most unexpected places. Elias stood motionless, utterly stunned, his mind reeling, struggling to keep pace with the man's rapid-fire words, his incredible proposition. A story. Based on him. A children's book. His life, his struggling garage, turned into a whimsical tale for children. It felt utterly surreal, a wild fantasy plucked from the pages of a dream. Julian, seemingly oblivious to Elias's profound silence, continued, his passion overriding any perceived awkwardness. I want to create a children's book based on your exchange, Mr. Vance. A book about kindness, about value beyond money, about unexpected connections. And Lily's drawing. That very drawing right there, he pointed with a dramatic flourish to the corkboard, his gaze still fixed on the vibrant crayon lines, would be the absolute heart of the illustrations. It would be the inspiration, the very soul of the visual narrative. He paused, taking a deep, fortifying breath, his gaze locking onto Elias's, now filled with a potent, unyielding intensity, an urgency that bypassed all small talk and social niceties. And here's where it gets truly interesting, Mr. Vance. I want to create this book. I want to draw it, write it, publish it. And I want to do it fast. My publisher is already on board, as soon as I outline the concept. And the proceeds, Mr. Vance's significant portion of the proceeds from this book, the initial print run, and a substantial percentage of all future royalties would go directly to Vance's garage, to keep it open, to modernize it, to ensure Mr. Best Mechanic Ever can keep doing his quiet magic for many years to come, to save your shop, Mr. Vance, to truly, irrevocably save it from financial ruin. The last words hung in the air, resonating with a profound, almost sacred implication. Elias felt the blood drain from his face, then rush back with dizzying force, a sudden, disorienting sensation. His garage. Saved. Not by a loan, not by a miracle repair, but by a children's book? By a child's crayon drawing? It was impossible. It was ludicrous. It was a genuine, unburdened miracle, descended from the heavens. The foreclosure notice, the looming debt, the crushing despair that had plagued his every waking moment, all seemed to recede, instantly replaced by a bewildering, almost overwhelming wave of hope, so vast and so unexpected that it felt almost unbearable, a golden light piercing the suffocating darkness. He stared at Julian Thorne, the renowned illustrator, the seemingly ordinary man who was also the father of the girl with the scooter, a man who had walked into his struggling world with an offer that sounded like the most incredible fever dream, yet felt, undeniably, with every fiber of his being, like destiny itself. Elias had no words, only a stunned, profound silence as the sheer unbelievable magnitude of the offer settled in his bones, vibrating through his very core. His life, his garage, his very future, his family's cherished legacy, all hung in the balance, inextricably tied to a child's simple, heartfelt drawing, a symbol of pure, unadulterated kindness. The quiet hum of the fluorescent lights in Vance's garage seemed to amplify the silence, which, for Elias, was now filled with the dizzying echoes of Julian Thorne's astonishing proposal. His pragmatic mind, trained in the tangible realities of rusted bolts and broken gears, struggled to bridge the chasm between his grease-stained existence and the glittering world of best-selling children's books. The offer was too good to be true, yet Julian's sincerity and the undeniable presence of Lily's drawing imbued it with an almost surreal credibility. Julian, ever perceptive, sensed Elias's internal struggle. He took a few steps back, giving Elias space to process the emotional earthquake he had just unleashed. "Mr. Vance," he said gently, his voice modulated, no longer carrying the fervent rush of inspiration. "I understand this is a lot. It's certainly unconventional, but I assure you, my offer is sincere, and my team is ready to move mountains to make this a reality. This isn't a fleeting idea. It's a fully formed concept, waiting for your blessing." Elias finally found his voice, a raw, almost unrecognizable rasp. "Mr. Thorne," he managed, running a hand through his thinning hair. I don't know what to say. It's a lifeline, a miracle. But why? Why me? Why my garage? There are hundreds of stories out there." He gestured vaguely at the worn-out tools, the pervasive scent of oil, the evidence of decades of relentless, unrewarded labor. Julian's gaze softened, a deep, empathetic understanding in his brown eyes. "Because, Mr. Vance," he explained, his voice quiet but firm, "true stories, especially those born of simple, profound human connection, have an authentic resonance that crafted narratives often lack. Lily didn't know you were struggling. You didn't know who she was, or who I was. You simply saw a child in need, and you offered kindness, without expectation of reward. Her payment was genuine, from the heart. Your acceptance was genuine, from a place of quiet humility. That exchange, Mr. Vance, is pure magic. It's the kind of lesson parents desperately want to impart to their children, and it's the kind of story that transcends cultures and backgrounds." He paused, then added, his voice gaining a quiet intensity. "My profession is to tell stories through art, and the best stories are found in the most unexpected places. In the everyday moments of grace. This isn't just about saving a garage, Mr. Vance, as important as that is. It's about sharing a moment of pure goodness with the world, and your authenticity, your inherent decency, is what will make this book resonate." Elias looked at the crayon drawing again, its cheerful simplicity seeming to mock the complexity of his adult world. He thought of his grandfather, a man who believed in the inherent goodness of people, who often said that a kind deed was its own reward. He thought of the relentless despair he had felt just moments before, the crushing weight of imminent failure. The contrast was stark, almost overwhelming. This wasn't just a business proposal. It was a validation of his entire life's philosophy, a testament to the belief that quiet acts of virtue held immense power. "And the logistics of it all?" Elias inquired, trying to ground himself in practicalities. "How would this even work? My garage it's not exactly set up for high-profile visits or public attention. I'm a mechanic, Mr. Thorne. I fix things. I don't talk about my feelings to buy strangers for book deals." A faint, self-deprecating smile touched his lips. Julian chuckled, a warm, reassuring sound. "Don't worry about that, Mr. Vance. That's my team's expertise. My literary agent, a formidable woman named Clara Maxwell, will handle all the contractual details. My publicist, Mr. Alistair Finch, is a master at managing media attention, ensuring everything is handled with respect for your privacy, while still generating the necessary buzz. And I, of course, will need to spend some time here, observing, sketching, soaking in the atmosphere, but always at your convenience, always respectfully. My primary goal is to capture the essence of this place in your character, not to turn it into a circus." He gestured to Lily's drawing. "The integrity of the story is paramount. We want the world to know the true, heartfelt origins of this tale, and that includes you, Mr. Vance, as the authentic best mechanic ever." Elias took a deep, shaky breath, the scent of oil and possibility filling his lungs. The alternative was a certainty he could no longer bear, the loss of his family's legacy, the quiet dignity of his life dissolving into bankruptcy. This, however improbable, offered a chance, a genuine, undeniable chance, to not only save his garage but to give it a renewed purpose, a broader reach. The decision, though momentous, felt strangely simple. "All right, Mr. Thorne," Elias said, his voice gaining strength, a quiet resolve hardening in his gaze. "I'm in. If you truly believe this can work, if you truly believe in the story, then I trust you. I trust Lily's judgment. He offered Julian a small, genuine smile. "What do we do first?" Julian's face lit up, a radiant, almost triumphant smile spreading across his features. He clapped Elias on the shoulder, a firm, reassuring gesture that spoke volumes. "Excellent, Mr. Vance. Excellent. I knew you'd see it. You won't regret this, I promise you. First things first. Clara will be in touch with you before the end of the day to discuss the agreement. She'll walk you through every detail, ensuring your interests are fully protected. Then, we schedule our first working sessions. I'll bring my Severny sketchbooks, and you just keep being Mr. Best Mechanic ever." Over the next few weeks, Elias's quiet, predictable life transformed into a fascinating, often bewildering blend of familiar routines and unprecedented new experiences. The legal process, orchestrated by Clara Maxwell, was surprisingly swift and transparent. Clara was a sharp, no-nonsense attorney, but her demeanor was one of genuine respect for Elias and the unique circumstances. She ensured the contract was fair, establishing a clear financial structure where a substantial upfront payment would clear his immediate debts and provide working capital, followed by a guaranteed percentage of all book sales, translating into a long-term, sustainable income stream for Vance's garage. Elias signed the papers, his hand trembling slightly, the act feeling like a profound release, the weight of years of financial anxiety finally lifting. The foreclosure notice, once a menacing symbol, was now a crumpled, discarded paper at the bottom of his trash bin, a forgotten ghost. Julian Thorne became a regular fixture in the garage, a silent, observant shadow. He would arrive with his worn leather satchel, filled with sketchbooks, charcoal, and pencils, and simply sit for hours in a folding chair, often in a dusty corner, sketching furiously. His gaze was incredibly keen, missing no detail. The way Elias meticulously organized his tools, the focused intensity in his eyes as he wrestled with a recalcitrant engine, the subtle patina of oil and age on the workbench, the way the light caught the rusted signs, even the patterns of dust motes dancing in the infrequent shafts of sunlight. He captured the essence of the garage with an almost uncanny precision, the worn character of the tools, the quiet dedication of the mechanic, the soul of the place. Julian asked questions, not just about the mechanics of engines, but about Elias's life, his philosophy. He inquired about his grandfather's stoicism, his father's unwavering work ethic, the quiet pride Elias took in his craft, the challenges of surviving as a small, independent business in a rapidly changing world. Elias found himself opening up, sharing stories he hadn't voiced in years, tales of his family's unwavering commitment to the garage, their belief in honest labor, their small triumphs and quiet heartbreaks. Julian listened intently, his artistic eyes absorbing every nuance, every emotional beat, transforming them into fuel for his creative vision. He understood that the story wasn't just about a broken scooter. It was about the heart of a good man struggling to preserve a legacy, a testament to resilience and unwavering integrity. Lily, true to her father's word, also became a regular visitor. She'd bring new drawings, proudly showcasing her latest creations, or simply sit on a stool, watching Elias work, her eyes wide with innocent fascination. She would chatter away, telling him stories about her school, her friends, her latest adventures. She brought a vibrant, joyful, almost magical energy to the grimy garage, her laughter echoing amidst the clatter of tools. She was utterly delighted that her drawing was inspiring a book, beaming with pride whenever Julian mentioned it. Elias found himself genuinely looking forward to her visits, her uncomplicated joy a balm to his often troubled mind, a steady source of genuine, unvarnished human connection. As Julian's illustrations began to take shape, he shared them with Elias, carefully flipping through the pages of his large sketchbooks. Elias stared, utterly mesmerized. Julian had captured the essence of his garage with astonishing accuracy. The peeling paint on the old sign, the overflowing toolboxes, the very texture of the worn concrete floor, the faint shimmer of oil on the tools. But more than that, he had captured the feeling of the place, the quiet dedication, the honest labor, the soul of a working man's sanctuary. And the depictions of him, Mr. Best Mechanic ever, were imbued with a warmth and kindness that Elias barely recognized as himself, seeing only the stoic, tired man in the mirror, but which Lily instantly affirmed was perfect daddy, just like Mr. Mechanic. The illustrations of Lily herself, her expressive brown eyes, her bouncy pigtails, her joyful embrace of the repaired scooter, were simply breathtaking, brimming with life and unadulterated happiness. It's incredible, Mr. Thorne," Elias said, his voice filled with genuine awe as he looked at the vibrant sketches, particularly one of Lily offering him the drawing, the sunlight haloing her small figure. You've made it beautiful. You've made this beautiful." He gestured around the grimy garage, seeing it through Julian's artistic eyes for the first time, perceiving the quiet dignity in its faded glory. Julian smiled, a deep satisfaction in his gaze, a glint of genuine camaraderie. "That's the magic of it, Mr. Vance. It always was beautiful. It just needed the right story and the right artist to show the world. And it needed your kindness to bring that story to life." He pointed to a new illustration, a detailed, vibrant rendering of Lily's crayon drawing. Floating amidst an almost whimsical swirl of gears and wrenches, the hearts pulsating with life. That's the heart of it all. Your kindness, her gratitude, that's what will resonate with every reader. The book, officially titled The Mechanic's Masterpiece, A Story of Kindness and True Value, was quickly moving through the publishing pipeline. Julian's stellar reputation ensured it received immediate top-tier attention from his publisher, a major player in children's literature with global reach. The marketing team, captivated by the authentic, heartwarming story and its universal themes, began planning a robust, worldwide launch campaign, recognizing its immense cross-cultural appeal. Elias found himself cautiously optimistic, allowing himself to dream of a future where Vance's garage not only survived but thrived, a testament to the unexpected ripple effect of a single, small act of kindness. The weeks leading up to the release of the Mechanic's Masterpiece were a blur of frenetic activity for Elias, a stark contrast to the quiet solitude he had once known. While Julian finalized the last of his meticulously crafted illustrations and the publishing house ramped up its marketing efforts, Elias found himself navigating a new, bewildering landscape of public relations. Julian's publicist, the impossibly organized and perpetually cheerful Alistair Finch, became a frequent visitor, meticulously scheduling interviews, photo shoots, and even a few preliminary media appearances. Elias, a man whose conversations rarely extended beyond engine specifications and tire pressures, suddenly found himself articulating the profound philosophy behind his work, the emotional weight of his family's legacy, and the unexpected beauty of Lily's kindness. He spoke to newspaper journalists from local papers, and then, surprisingly, to national lifestyle magazines. He posed for photographs, initially stiff and self-conscious in his freshly laundered, though still humble overalls, but gradually easing into the role, his genuine warmth shining through. He found himself answering questions about the very nature of value, about the importance of empathy, and about the unexpected ways in which generosity could transform a life. He spoke with a quiet sincerity that resonated deeply with the interviewers, his authenticity, a refreshing antidote to the often manufactured narratives of success. He learned that his story, unvarnished and true, was indeed what people longed to hear. Meanwhile, back at Vance's garage, the initial infusion of funds from Julian's advance allowed for immediate, vital improvements. The leaky roof, a persistent problem that had plagued him for years, was finally repaired, banishing the damp chill that had permeated the structure. The cracked concrete floor was resurfaced, buffed to a gleaming, almost mirror-like finish that reflected the newly installed, energy-efficient LED lighting. The stark, utilitarian interior was subtly softened with fresh paint on the walls, a warm, inviting cream that made the space feel less industrial and more like a welcoming workshop. The true transformation, however, lay in the equipment. Gleaming, state-of-the-art diagnostic machines, with their complex screens and intricate wiring, now hummed quietly in a dedicated corner, capable of pinpointing elusive engine problems with startling precision. Hydraulic lifts, smooth and powerful, replaced the creaky old floor jacks. A sophisticated tire balancing machine, its precision lasers whirring, now occupied the spot where Elias used to meticulously balance tires by hand. The tools, once a mismatched collection of inherited relics and hard-won acquisitions, were gradually replaced by new, ergonomically designed sets. Though Elias insisted on prominently displaying his grandfather's cherished antique wrenches in a custom-built glass case, a tangible link to the garage's rich history and its foundational values, he began hiring not just any mechanics, but young, enthusiastic apprentices, fresh out of vocational schools, eager to learn from a master. He taught them not only the intricacies of modern engine repair, but also the timeless philosophy of Vance's garage. Honesty above all else, meticulous attention to detail, and a genuine, empathetic approach to every customer, regardless of their vehicle or their ability to pay. He emphasized the importance of listening, of understanding not just the mechanical problem, but the human story behind it. The garage, once a silent, solitary space, now buzzed with the energetic chatter of learning, the rhythmic clanging of wrenches, and the scent of new oil mingling with the pervasive aroma of hard work. It was a thriving business, capable of handling larger, more complex repairs, attracting a new, younger clientele. Yet, Elias never turned away a simple bicycle with a broken chain or a child's scooter with a bent wheel, always offering a kind word and a moment of his time, remembering the pivotal moment that had changed everything. For him, the launch day for the mechanic's masterpiece arrived, heralded by a blizzard of media attention. Elias, dressed in a crisply laundered set of new overalls, found himself standing on a brightly lit stage in a packed auditorium, alongside Julian and a beaming Lily. The audience, a mix of curious media, excited parents, and delighted children, murmured with anticipation. The book's cover, enlarged to poster size, adorned the backdrop, its vibrant colors and heartwarming imagery instantly captivating. Julian spoke first, his voice resonating with his characteristic blend of passion and humility. He recounted the story of Lily's scooter, the bent wheel, and her earnest payment. He spoke of Elias's quiet kindness, of the profound truth he had found in that simple exchange. He spoke of the inherent beauty of everyday heroes, the unsung individuals who quietly performed acts of grace that made the world a better place. Then, it was Elias's turn. He approached the podium, his heart thumping a nervous rhythm against his ribs. He felt the weight of the moment, the expectant gaze of hundreds of eyes. He took a deep breath and began, not with prepared remarks, but with the simple, honest truth of his experience. For years, Elias began, his voice a little shaky at first, but gaining strength with each word, finding his stride. This garage, it was everything. My grandfather built it. My father worked here every day of his life. It was a place of honest work, of putting things right. But lately, he admitted, his gaze sweeping over the audience, connecting with each person, it became a heavy weight. The bills, debts, the fear of losing it all. It felt like the garage, and me, we were just sputtering along, heading for a final breakdown. He paused, a faint smile touching his lips as he glanced at Lily, who was watching him with wide, adoring eyes. And then, one afternoon, this little firecracker, he gestured to Lily, who giggled, walked in with a broken scooter. And she didn't have money. She had something far better. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, carefully laminated copy of Lily's original crayon drawing. He held it up for the audience to see. A collective sigh, a ripple of warmth, spread through the auditorium. The simplicity of the drawing, its raw innocence, was incredibly powerful. She paid me with this, Elias continued, his voice thick with emotion, with pure gratitude, with a declaration of best mechanic ever. And in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't about the money. It was about seeing myself, seeing my work, through her eyes, through the eyes of kindness. And that, he concluded, his voice resonating with deep conviction. That was the true turning point. That was the moment this garage, and my life, began to be fixed. The applause was thunderous, heartfelt, a testament to the emotional power of his words. Julian clapped him on the shoulder, his eyes gleaming with pride. Lily launched herself at Elias, wrapping her arms around his waist in a familiar, comforting hug. The bond between them, forged in a dusty garage over a broken scooter, was palpable, authentic, and inspiring. The mechanic's masterpiece soared to the top of bestseller lists, not just in their country, but across the globe. It was translated into dozens of languages, its universal message transcending linguistic barriers. The royalties flowing into the Vance's Garage Foundation were staggering, ensuring the garage's prosperity for generations to come. Elias established an apprenticeship program, providing full scholarships and mentorship for promising young mechanics from underprivileged backgrounds, ensuring his family's trade continued to thrive, and giving back to the community that had supported his grandfather and father. Elias, the man who had once faced the daunting specter of foreclosure, was now a revered figure, not just in Oak Haven, but far beyond. He continued to work in his garage every day, his hands still stained with grease, but his heart full, his spirit renewed. He still kept Lily's original drawing, now carefully preserved in a custom frame, pinned to his corkboard, a faded but cherished reminder of the moment his life had irrevocably changed. It was a testament to the unexpected paths of destiny, the profound impact of a simple act of kindness, and the undeniable truth that sometimes the most valuable transactions are those made not with money, but with the pure, unburdened currency of a child's heart. His garage, once a symbol of his struggle, now stood as a vibrant beacon of hope, a living monument to a unique story that began with a broken scooter and a priceless crayon drawing, a masterpiece of compassion that continued to mend and inspire countless lives, one heartfelt act at a time.